Welcome to the mythical creatures.
The Banshee is a mythical creature rooted in Irish and Celtic folklore, widely known as a harbinger of death. The Banshee's haunting cry is said to signal the impending death of a family member, and she is often portrayed as a supernatural figure tied to specific Irish families, particularly noble ones. Over time, the Banshee's legend has evolved, making her one of the most iconic figures in Celtic mythology, feared for her mournful wail and ghostly appearance. Let's delve deeper into her characteristics, origin, and cultural significance. The Banshee, known as bean seed in Irish Gaelic, translates to woman of the fairy mound or fairy woman. Her roots lie in ancient Celtic beliefs that certain families had a guardian spirit or a fairy who would warn them of approaching death. These side or fairy mounds were thought to be entrances to the other world, where supernatural beings resided. Over time, this connection between death and the spirit world grew, and the Banshee evolved into a figure that embodies mourning and loss. The myth of the Banshee is primarily associated with 5 prominent Irish families: the O'Briens, O'Connors, O'Grady's, O'Neills, and Kavanaghs, although the legend has extended to other families as well. It was said that the Banshee would wail to warn these families of death, and her cries could be heard from great distances, sometimes even before the family became aware of an illness or death. The most terrifying aspect of the Banshee is her wail, which is described as an eerie, heart-wrenching cry that can pierce the night air. It is often compared to the sound of a keening woman, a traditional practice in ancient Ireland where women mourners would weep and wail at funerals. Some stories describe the Banshee's cry as so hauntingly beautiful, yet profoundly sorrowful, that it can bring anyone who hears it to tears. Her cry is not only a forewarning of death, but also acts as an acknowledgement of an already dying family member. The Banshee doesn't cause death, but serves as a spiritual medium that connects the family to the inevitable fate of mortality. Some legends even suggest that she mourns for those who died too young or tragically, reinforcing her connection with grief and loss. The Banshee's cry is often compared to natural sounds, such as the howling of the wind, the screech of an owl, or the wail of an animal in pain. However, it is also distinct, with some legends claiming that it can carry across great distances and be heard for miles. The Banshee's physical appearance varies greatly depending on the region or the tale in which she is featured. However, the following descriptions are common. Old crone. The most frequent depiction of the Banshee is as a withered old hag. She often appears frail, with long white hair flowing down her back, and wears a gray or white cloak. This version of the Banshee is said to have a terrifying appearance, with hollow eyes and an emaciated face, symbolizing death and decay. Young woman. In contrast to the old hag, some stories describe the Banshee as a young, beautiful maiden with long, flowing hair and pale skin. This version of the Banshee is often portrayed as a spirit of someone who died tragically young, perhaps a woman who died in childbirth or lost her life in some other untimely way. Middle-aged woman. Another variation of the Banshee is the middle-aged woman, representing the stages of life. This portrayal is less common, but symbolizes the matronly figure who mourns for a dying family member, mirroring the grief of a mother or grandmother losing her child. In addition to her physical forms, the Banshee is often said to carry a comb, which is a prominent feature in Irish folklore. Finding a comb on the ground was considered bad luck, as it was believed to belong to the Banshee, and picking it up might lead to being cursed or even abducted by the fairy folk. The Banshee is not a malevolent figure, despite her terrifying reputation. Her role is to warn of death, not cause it. She serves as a symbol of the inevitable cycle of life and death, and often mourns alongside those about to experience loss. The Banshee is seen as a guide, helping to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. In some interpretations, the Banshee represents a family member who has passed away, particularly someone who died under tragic circumstances. This adds a layer of personal connection to her presence, as she might be mourning for the family she left behind in life. In these stories, the Banshee serves as both a messenger and a protector, ensuring that the family has a chance to prepare for the loss that is to come. Though the Banshee is a distinctly Irish figure, similar legends can be found in other Celtic regions, such as Scotland and Wales. The Scottish Bean Knee is often compared to the Banshee. Known as the washer at the ford, she is said to wash the clothes or armor of those who are about to die, foreshadowing their fate. In Welsh mythology, the Grach y Ribyn is another figure that shares similarities with the Banshee. She is described as a hideous, winged creature whose screeches serve as warnings of death. Like the Banshee, the Grach y Ribyn is tied to specific families and heralds the approach of death through her unearthly cry. The Banshee's eerie presence has been adapted into modern media, making her a well-known figure beyond Irish folklore. 1. Movies. The Banshee has appeared in various films, most notably in horror genres. Darby O'Gill and the Little People features one of the earliest cinematic portrayals of the Banshee, where her wail and ghostly figure bring death to a beloved character. The Banshee chapter, although not directly based on the traditional Banshee legend, incorporates the idea of supernatural warnings and mind-altering experiences. 2. Television. In the hit show Teen Wolf, one of the characters, Lydia Martin, is revealed to be a Banshee. She uses her supernatural abilities to detect death and is integral to the series' plot. Similarly, in the show Supernatural, a Banshee appears as a villain in the 11th season, where her presence signals death among the characters. 3. Video games. The Banshee has even found her way into video games, such as in the Mass Effect series, where the Banshees are a terrifying enemy class. These creatures, resembling ghostly figures with long wails, serve as a nod to the traditional folklore while fitting into a futuristic sci-fi world. While the Banshee has historically been associated with death, modern interpretations have expanded her role. She is often depicted as a tragic figure, someone who once lived but was forced to serve as a messenger of death due to her own untimely demise. This version of the Banshee adds depth to her character, making her more of a victim than a villain. In some stories, she is even portrayed sympathetically, as a misunderstood spirit whose only purpose is to mourn for the lost. The Banshee is a complex and fascinating figure in Celtic mythology, representing both the fear of death and the grief that accompanies it. Her mournful cry is a chilling reminder of the fragility of life, and her presence as a messenger of death has made her one of the most recognizable and enduring supernatural beings in Irish folklore. Whether seen as a terrifying omen or a sorrowful spirit, the Banshee continues to captivate the imagination of those who hear her wail, forever linking the worlds of the living and the dead.
Thanks for watching. It will be nice to see you again in the world of mythical creatures.